2 new AEW signings were revealed this past weekend, and that took place at AEW House Rules. That means this didn't take place on a TV show. It didn't take place on Dynamite or Collision. It didn't take place at Grand Slam, but instead it took place at a house show in Australia. Now, we have been talking about it on this channel for a while that AEW has a string of new signings that they have yet to reveal. And I've been telling you guys pretty much for over a month that we should expect this, but it is true. The Inspiration have signed with AEW. Now, this has actually generated a very interesting and mixed response. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that realistically, these aren't the best wrestlers in the world. And AEW is known for where the best wrestle. I personally don't have a problem with this. I've been maintaining that for a while. However, Jessica McKay and Cassie Lee joining AEW will present women's tag team wrestling in a little bit of a better light. I think women's tag team wrestling is one of those things that is very hard to get over because naturally there isn't that many women's tag teams out there. Now, AEW has formed women's tag teams, and we've seen WWE form women's tag teams, but Cassie Lee and Jessica McKay are actually a women's tag team. And if you're trying to take this women's tag team division to the next level, these two girls have a lot of personality and charisma to get the job done. And I say this respectfully. I don't mean this to come off rude or, negative, but it is true. I think if you look at Jessica McKay and Cassie Lee, you are looking at them more of the fact that they are very entertaining. And maybe their in-ring style isn't what people are talking about at most, but that's okay. Now, they did compete for TNA as well. And over a month ago, we knew that they were leaving, and we knew there was interest between WWE and AEW in bringing them back. However, I had told you guys then too, I do fully expect them to be in AEW. Now, with that being said, Fightful did confirm that the deals with AEW are multiple year. So this isn't like a trial run. This isn't a one-off, hey, we're in Australia. This isn't a short-term per appearance deal. I know there was a lot of talk with them being in TNA of like, okay, maybe they'll do some more per appearance stuff. That isn't the case. So basically what has happened is their signing was pretty much known for over a month. Sources had told Fightful that AEW had essentially secured them 4 weeks before their debut. So pretty much it kind of adds up to what I was saying when they left TNA. And that's okay. It just makes sense, right? Now, when you look into the future of AEW and what they're doing, I feel like right now 2026 has been very strong for them. And I think if they keep doing what they're doing, we will see AEW get to the point where they are selling more tickets and things of that nature. Because the truth is, AEW Grand Slam wasn't a huge Grand Slam, so to say, for ticket sales. But obviously they have a lot of things in the works. There's a lot of storytelling happening. There's a lot of great matches happening. There's a lot of big programs happening. And then, of course, you got to introduce more talent. And I think if you really want the women's tag team division to work, having those actual, authentic, real women's tag teams together is going to be a big deal. And quite frankly, I think this is one of those things where AEW kind of hit the mark. I think they did the right thing. And I understand why there's such a mixed response. I understand why people are kind of upset about it. But the truth is, you need to have a balance of everything. You got to have a little bit of comedy in wrestling. You got to have some great matches in wrestling. You got to have some really over-the-top characters. You got to have a mixture of everything because your wrestling audience is actually quite diverse in the things that they enjoy. And I think for AEW, the more that they focus on being themselves and allowing themselves to do the things that they're doing, the more success they will find over a long period of time. So I genuinely believe there is nothing wrong with them signing the Inspiration. I hope it works out for them. I hope they're actually on TV. I hope they're actually doing stories for the women's tag team division. And I think it'll work out pretty well for AEW in the end. Is the Inspiration going to come into AEW and just start giving them millions of viewers? Probably not. But as we talk about a mixture and a diversity of what you're offering your audience, I think you can start gaining more of an audience the more that you introduce little tidbits like character-centric wrestlers, and that's exactly what they are. And good for them, honestly. It's cool to see that they're still wrestling and they're still going, even despite after being gone from WWE. Their work in TNA was good, but the women's tag division in TNA may have not been given a lot of love either. So this is one of those things where I think women's tag team wrestling is definitely not a strong suit for any company, but when you build upon it, you could see potential results. And look, WWE just brought back, they just brought back the Bella Twins, and I think that argument could be applied there as well. So very good stuff there. Happy for them. Let's see what happens next. I want to turn our attention to Seth Rollins because I think I might have cracked the code, and maybe I didn't, but this is pretty important to talk about because Seth Rollins is now back in the gym ahead of WrestleMania 42, and there's obviously been a lot of rumors surrounding Seth Rollins and also Braun Breaker. So now there is some stuff about Seth Rollins because he's officially returned to training. Now, there's some videos that have circulated online with Seth Rollins being back in the gym. He's doing leg exercises. He's using his arm as well. It's very clear that he is on the road to a major return. And then it kind of got me thinking, we've heard the news about Braun Breaker having a hernia surgery, potentially missing WrestleMania, potentially coming back for WrestleMania. And that obviously sounds like there is going to be a major change, for WrestleMania in general. Like, I think we've been hearing a lot of reports about Triple H changing WrestleMania plans and WWE changing WrestleMania plans and low ticket sales and things of that nature. But I think WWE has the expectation that both Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins will be able to compete at WrestleMania. And if that is true, then it would make sense that Seth Rollins was actually the masked attacker at the Royal Rumble. And when I say this, let me just be perfectly clear. I don't believe Seth Rollins was physically under that mask. I think that's why they tried to hide it or have somebody else do it. But I think when it comes to the official reveal, it will be Seth Rollins because Seth Rollins is going to be the guy when it gets revealed, he's going to challenge Braun Breaker. Now, that is only possible if both of them are cleared. And we don't really know what to expect because if Seth Rollins gets cleared but Braun Breaker isn't cleared, then that's another change that WWE WrestleMania 42 will have to have. So I think it is very clear that WWE is actually kind of being challenged right now. I don't think there's a lot of guarantees or certainty as to whether or not who will be available, who won't be available because of these injuries. But if Seth Rollins is back training and Braun Breaker isn't fully cleared, let's just say hypothetically he isn't, I think there's an opportunity for WWE to have Seth Rollins potentially main event triple threat for the World Heavyweight Championship. I think there's also things that you could do between him and Austin Theory or him and Bronson Reed or, anybody really with the vision, maybe even Logan Paul. But I don't know if that's good enough, quite frankly. I don't know if that's good enough. And I think for WWE, they got to figure it out because if WrestleMania 42 tickets are low now, they'll probably sell out. And WrestleMania is a big spectacle, but you want people, you need to have that really hot angle going into the pay-per-view. And I don't think they have it with Cody this year. And I do think they have it with Punk and Roman, but you got to have something massive, man. And I don't know if they have that this year. And listen, we still got a lot of time until WrestleMania. But it's just important that we get it figured out because quite frankly, if they don't figure it out, I think a lot of people will be looking at Triple H for answers and hopefully Triple H will give them those answers. So that is going to be very important to see how it all pans out, but it is definitely something worth noting. And personally speaking, if I had a pick for like what I would rather see, I would rather see Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker. I think there's a lot of meat on that bone for a story. And I think Seth being the masked attacker, to be ultimately revealed it for him. I just think it makes sense. Braun Breaker got screwed out of the Royal Rumble. Braun Breaker, it's you could do so much good there. But I just have a feeling with whatever's happening with the vision, it's going to be a little bit more long term. And we know Triple H loves the long term stuff. But for this, they gotta pick it up. They gotta do something and add something to it to really make it catch on fire. Because I don't know if people are going to be 100% bought in. I might be willing to pick that match being the one I desire most, but I think at some point people will get sick and tired of it. So you got to be very careful there. We'll see how WWE plays their cards. Speaking of injuries and WrestleMania 42, we should probably turn our attention to Bianca Belair. This has been such a crazy thing because honestly, I expected her back at the Royal Rumble, and that was just more of like an internal gut feeling. But there really hasn't been that much progress made on her injury. So with that said, I want to keep you guys updated. But Bianca Belair wrote on social media that she is getting her finger surgery, and her recovery has been crazy. So she sustained her injury almost a year ago. They expected her to be back 8 to 12 weeks. Now this has been like a 10-month process. Her finger is completely damaged. And so she broke her knuckle. She didn't break her finger. That was the crazy part. She like broke the joint. They thought this was going to be a quick process. Obviously, it hasn't been a quick process. And now she's going in for finger surgery, which will obviously add a little bit more time for recovery. Now, what's even more interesting is just like a week ago, there was reports and rumors that WWE wants Bianca Belair involved in some capacity at WrestleMania 42. I don't know after surgery if that is possible. I don't know if that's possible. But if Bianca Belair isn't like ready for the ring, I could see WWE doing something between Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill as a stare down at WrestleMania to at least tease what is to come if she is not clear for in-ring work. But obviously just a sad situation, man. She is such a great talent, and I don't know. I don't know what to expect, bro. Like, being that she is such a great talent and she's dealing with this injury and has just kept her on the sidelines for so long, it bothers me because she is actually talented and she actually adds value to the show. And there are some major storylines I would love to see with Bianca Belair when she returns. I would be absolutely foolish to not talk about the idea of Bianca and Jordan having a great feud. And then, of course, you have to talk about Bianca and Jade because we saw the storyline that was in place before she left TV. I think there could be some really good stuff between Bianca Belair and Julia. Bianca Belair and Raquel Rodriguez, which I know I've said it before. Raquel has been really good. And, I wouldn't mind watching that feud. I wouldn't mind watching Bianca and Rhea Ripley, which, by the way, Bianca and Rhea Ripley is a WrestleMania main event. So there is so much that could be said about that, so much that could be talked about. And I don't know. I cannot believe how much this injury has actually taken her away from us. But ultimately, health before wealth, as I always say. I hope it all works out in our favor. Let's talk about a potential new signing for the WWE. We know that they have these tryouts, and it's obviously being made a very big deal. WWE's recruiting efforts in the last year has kind of changed, right? They're not just going after collegiate athletes. They're also going after indie wrestlers, but they're also going after Olympic competitors. Now, this time, a 27-year-old Brazilian Olympic track and field competitor confirmed on Instagram that she has received a tryout with the WWE and will be headed to Orlando, Florida next week to step into a WWE ring for the very first time. She goes by the name of Ana da Silva, and she is looking at potentially going into WWE, which is pretty huge. She represented Brazil at the 2024 Paris Olympics in the women's shot put event. She finished 23rd in the competition. Now she is potentially going to be a WWE superstar, which is interesting. Have you noticed that WWE isn't necessarily going after gold medalists all the time? They're not necessarily going after silver medalists or bronze medalists. I mean, this is somebody who finished 23 in the event, which, just to make it to the Olympics is such a big deal and it's such a big achievement. So let's not take anything away from her. But it's an interesting thought that WWE is recruiting And I wonder how they look at this. I wonder how they look and say, hey man, there's somebody there. She finished 23rd in the Olympics. She didn't win, but she looks like she could be a WWE superstar. Who knows? I don't know what their mentality is or how they go about it, but it's interesting that she could potentially be a new WWE signing very, very soon. And I personally love this recruiting method. I do. WWE has evolved. They have NXT, they have SmackDown, they have Raw, they have PLEs. I mean, they have so much abundance of coverage and television that deep down inside, I think WWE going after an Olympic performer, like an Olympic athlete, I just think it's great. And when somebody's an athlete, man, not everybody transitions well into wrestling, but when somebody's an athlete, it's just in their nature to be competitive. I love that. And I love that, some people grow up to be a WWE superstar, some people don't. And there is a risk, right? If somebody didn't have the dream of being a wrestler and you sign them, there's a chance that they may not work out. But I think when you look at the system that they have, you could go to Evolve, try characters, try different things, try to see what works and what doesn't work. If you're good enough, you make it to NXT. And then you may not even do well in NXT, but you might get over in NXT. If you get over in NXT and you become undeniable, you're almost guaranteed a spot on the main roster. So I love the system that WWE has. I think it's a great way of like getting people like in the system. But not everybody's going to work out. That's 100% true. But I do like their recruiting efforts. And I like the fact that they've also in the past year gone after indie wrestlers, because you got to have some people that actually love and live for the sport. So I am intrigued to see how it goes down and how they go about it. Obviously, time will tell. And for our final topic of today's video, I want to talk about the Hardy Boys. Yeah, the Hardy Boys, while speaking to Metro UK just last night, what an interesting article that I read. Matt and Jeff Hardy addressed their WWE future and made it clear that even though they are with TNA full-time, they do have ongoing discussions with WWE. Matt actually revealed himself. He says, we're in constant negotiations with WWE about doing some more stuff. We will do more with them. We saw the Hardys win the NXT tag titles. They dropped the belts to Dark State. That was in October 2025. Then they've obviously been full-time with TNA, right? WWE and TNA have this partnership. I know there's rumors about the Hardys being Hall of Famers in the WWE. I don't know if that's going to happen, while they're still actively performing. But I like the idea of them doing more with WWE. In fact, I would like to see the Hardys involved at WrestleMania. I think it would be really cool for a tag team championship program, maybe multiple teams involved. I don't know. But it would be nice, bro. It would be really, really nice. It would be really nice for TNA and WWE to come together and have the Hardys, it would be really nice for them to come together and just do something big. Tag team wrestling has kind of been wonky in the past few years. I don't think tag team wrestling has really been a big focus for any of the companies. I continue to talk about that and continue to rant about that. So add the Hardys into a major program, and this could be a way for WWE's main roster to also promote TNA. There's a lot of things you can do, and I would love for a multi-man ladder match at WrestleMania for the tag titles, and even if the Hardys didn't win, just to see them there, that would be great. I think we'll see the Hardys involved in more WWE documentaries. I think we'll see the Hardys involved in a lot of stuff. I don't know. We will see what happens. But I'm very excited about it. And I think Matt and Jeff Hardy, it's interesting. These guys being in AEW and being in WWE and being pretty much everywhere, they've won the tag titles everywhere. They're such a legendary tag team. And their career is a lot closer to the end than it is to the beginning. So hopefully we could get a couple big more moments out of them before it's all done and over with. And that's what I would personally like to see. How that goes down, how it happens, where it happens, it doesn't even matter, honestly. There's just so many great tag teams out there, but I don't think tag team wrestling's a focus, so it kind of sucks when it's not a big focus. And when you look at Raw or SmackDown, that's definitely an area that needs a little bit more improvement. But, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But crazy. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Ango Show.